Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's episode of Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and my guest today is Kathie Reynolds, one of our cult regulars, and we are here for your listening entertainment. But I don't know how entertained you're going to be by the subject matter because we're going to talk about grief today. More about the lovely Kathie in a mere moment. Now, we're very high-tech here. As I tell you every week, you can interact with us during the show, either in the chat room at the bottom of the page, or you can call us with your questions or comments, 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Or you can interact with us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Xander Gibb, all lowercase. And Kathie's is at Kathie Reynolds, capital K, capital R. And we will answer all of your questions as long as they're not anything to do with John Hamm's underwear or Kim Kardashian's large ass. All right, don't forget to check out the Jake Pentland Show, Saturdays, 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. EST with Jake, Jen, and Eli. And Time Out Seat with Brandy and Jenny. I'm not sure what day that is next week, but check their Twitter page for details. That's at Time Out Seat, TIMEOUTSEAT. Also, check out my sister from another mister, Fallon Stone, on the F Word X, Saturdays, 3:30 p.m. PST, 5:30 EST, and tell her that Xander sent you. Also, check out the Rob and Trav Show. They're now with Grindhouse Radio, which is a parent of, it's a sibling of Gas House Radio. And you can find them at grindhouseradio.com. You can catch them Mondays and Tuesdays, 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. PST. And I'm sure I will see you there. So as some of you may know, I found out last week that my dear friend and the producer of my album, The Platinum Prequel, Ben Bufton, had died. And it had happened like a month previous. I hadn't spoken to him in a while, but I was looking forward to meeting him and his new wife in New York in the summer. Now, Ben was not just a talented individual, but he was a very lovely soul. And I did love him for being him. For believing in me. And believe me, as an artist, it is really enamoring and flattering when somebody believes that your talent kind of has what it takes to make it. Now, the grief I feel about losing Ben is palpable, and frankly, I can't believe he's gone. Rest in peace, Ben Bufton, gone but not forgotten. Now, when my dad died a few years ago, I didn't cry until the funeral, and I remember these tears and those around me mourning him. This was like two examples of my grief, but could not be more different. They say time is a great healer, but frankly, I think that's a crock of shit. I don't miss my dad any less today than I did 9 years ago when he died. Grief is the normal internal feeling of what one experiences in reaction to a loss, while bereavement is the state of having experienced that loss. And although people often suffer emotional pain in response to the loss of anything that's important to them, for example, a job, friendship, someone they love, a relationship, or a sense of safety or a home, grief usually refers to the loss of a loved one through death. Now, everyone grieves in their own way and in their own time. Some people are more emotional and dive into their feelings while, others are stoic and may seek distraction from dwelling on an unchangeable fact of living. Neither is better than the other, but if at any point one is concerned about whether one's grief-related feelings, thoughts, behaviors are normal and healthy, a consultation with someone who's qualified, a grief counselor, may be advised. those of us with faith are consoled that we will indeed see our loved ones again. But for some, this is not consolation enough. Now, my guest today is no stranger to grief. Wrung teeth in today. Kathie Reynolds, whose young son was fatally killed, but has turned her grief into something really positive. Welcome to the show, Kathie.
Hi, Xander.
Hi. Xander?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good.
And how is Boston today? Sorry, you're not in Boston, are you? You're in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm about an hour away from Boston.
Right. And is it as cold there as it is here in New York?
It is cold.
Yeah, it's damn cold. I went out to check the mailbox and to let the dog out this morning and was like, get back inside. So tell us a little bit, Kathie, about what happened to your son and how it changed your life.
Well, Tom was 18 at the time. He was a senior in high school. And he had become friends after football ended with a couple of kids that weren't on the football team and a couple that were, that he still hung out with. One of them I didn't really care for. Right. And I kept telling him that, I didn't care for that kid. He seemed weird, seemed to have family problems. And, Tom was a lot like me, and he always felt for the underdog and somebody that didn't fit in. So he kept saying, well, he has a bad family life and you don't understand, and I'm his only friend, and, so on. So right. On that night, another boy that was on the football team had broken up with his girlfriend, and his stuff was in her summer home that the family owned. And he wanted to go inside the summer home that nobody was in and take his stuff back. So my son Tom and that boy and the other boy that I didn't care for broke into that house to get his stuff. Right. They put it in my son's car and they drove away. And when they drove away, my son said, I don't feel comfortable with this. I want to bring everything back. Right. And an argument broke out because the other two wanted to keep the stuff. And he said, no, we're going to bring it back. We're not going to do this. So he drove back. They took all the stuff out of the Jeep and put it back and drove away, and the argument kept going on. The boy in the back had a knife and stabbed the back of my son's seat because he was mad. So he pulled over and he told him, get the F out of the car, blah, blah, blah. Right. So he said he wasn't going to get out of the car. He said, you're going to get out of the car, I'm going to make you get out of the car. And that boy was small in stature, maybe 130 pounds. My son was a big boy, 200 and something pounds, 6'1". He's a big boy. So he got out of the Jeep, the other boy. But when he got out, he stabbed Tom's tire quite a few times. So when he went to drive away, he saw that the tire was stabbed. He pulled over, got out of the Jeep, and went over to him, and a fight broke out. The other boy stayed in the Jeep. He never got out. He didn't realize that Tom was being stabbed. I don't even know if Tom knew he was, to be honest. But he was stabbed 7 times in the heart, in the lungs. He walked back to the Jeep, got in the Jeep and said, let's go, and slumped over and died. Wow. That boy that killed him ran. The other boy chased him, didn't catch him. He hid the knife. He ran home, changed his clothes, took a cab to where his car, which was at Tom's father's house, got in his car, and the police were waiting for him at the top of the street. Wow. And I got a phone call. That's how I found out about it. And from there, the hell begins.
So how long ago was this, Kathie? How many years ago did this happen?
In May, it'll be 7 years.
7 years.
Yes.
So was this person, was the guy, so the police took this guy off, and And obviously he was charged. Was he charged with murder or manslaughter? Or?
Well, we didn't end up going to trial.
Right, so he pled out.
I let them take the plea for a lot of reasons. I didn't want to, people really don't understand how the courts work.
No.
Until you're in it. They drag it on forever, first of all. It's never ending. It's court after court after court, and it's a hard road, Their side can say anything they want about Tom. He isn't there.
Right.
They can make up any lie they want. It's okay to do that if they want. And then we have to prove that it's a lie. So they wanted to say Tom was on steroids, and that's
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a very hard road, and not only that, but I had 2 other kids to care for.
Right. So when you got that phone call, what must go through your mind as a parent to be told that your child is dead, has died, has been killed? Was it? Was it disbelief? Was it?
Yeah, you almost don't believe it. You think, well, no, I'm going to get there, and they're going to be, oh, no, it's not Tom. It's somebody else, You feel like that can't happen to you. That can't happen to your son. And I think your body just goes into shock mode. So it's numb, some of it I remember as if it was yesterday, and some I can't remember.
Right.
I remember telling Danny, who was 15 at the time.
Right.
And he went to the hospital with me.
Your body and your brain has this amazing way of protecting you. I think sometimes with some experiences, because whether people kind of admit it or not, you actually there's a physical shock to something like that, isn't there? There's a physical reaction to news like that.
Yes, and I think it's for a reason. I think you couldn't handle it if you didn't go into shock that way.
No, because I think it would just, it's destroying enough anyway, but not having that physical coping mechanism within your body, you just wouldn't deal with it at all, would you?
No. So I think that's what happened is I went into shock and I did what I needed to do.
Right.
As a parent, as a mom, as, a sister, an aunt, I had to carry on a certain way, I felt.
Right. Because even though you're grieving the loss of your child, you've got your other children to consider whilst you're grieving, I suppose.
Yes, and in that moment, obviously I knew this was going to be devastating for them, but I didn't realize everything that was going to take place afterwards.
Right.
Danny got a drug problem afterwards. He tried to numb his pain. So now I had to deal with that. He's 15. He's got a drug problem. I'm trying to keep him alive and help him with his pain. And then I have a 4-year-old who gets post-traumatic stress.
Right.
So I went into, I've got to fix these kids.
Right.
I've got to save them. So my pain gets pushed way down.
Right.
Because that's the mode I go into for years.
Right.
And then years later, because it really doesn't end. You're right. It never ends. It's just different every year,
I agree with that.
Yes. It's just a different pain. It's still there. It doesn't go away. It just changes. So years later, Sam is healing and Danny's sober. Now I got to look at my own pain because what else am I going to do?
Because I guess I'm not a parent, but I guess that what you tend to do is bury that in order to, because your instinct as a parent is to see that your kids are all right first of all, isn't it? Really. Right,
and I remember a time when I wanted to fold. I wanted to say, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And it was a very defining moment for me. That I was in bed. It was early in the morning, and I didn't want to get up. I just was like, oh, my God, another day. I got to do this again. And Sam was only 4 and he jumped in the bed and he said, Mom, which Power Ranger do you like better, the red or the green? And I kept my eyes closed, and thinking in my head, I can't do this. Your brother's dead. I can't do this. And
right.
he said it again. Mom, which one do you like, the red or the green? And I thought, I just can't. I don't want to do this. And then I heard Tom in my head say, answer him. Answer my little brother. He deserves the same mother I had. And that just changed everything for me.
Wow.
I opened my eyes and I said, I like the green one. And I thought, he's right. I can't let this kid down too.
I mean, in psychological terms, it's apparently it's so common for parents who lose a child to put their own grief on a back burner, which is what they feel they have to do. However, the effects that actually has on the parent is devastating, because you don't get to deal with your own grief until everybody else has started to look at theirs and deal with theirs and start to kind of feel a little differently about what's happened.
Right. But it's hard afterwards as a parent, because once you help heal those around, you're stuck with now you have to look at yourself.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that was hard.
So tell me, I've kind of spoken to people who have lost members of their family before, from a murder, and they've said that they went from hating the perpetrator, the person that killed them, to actually feeling sorry for them. And that's actually a common thing, but it's actually part of the grieving process. Was it like that for you? Was this guy brought to justice? What was it? Was the justice fair? Was it part of? Did it feel like it didn't bring Tom back? Did it? But was
no.
it? Was
and
it
in your
sufficient?
In your mind, you do that when it's a murder. You say, well, when he gets sentenced, I'll feel better. But you don't.
Right.
There's nothing, unless Tom could come back, there's nothing that's going to fix that. There's not enough time that he'll get. It's just not going to be. But I decided right from the start not to go the anger route. I went to a group meeting for parents whose children were murdered, and there were about 20 people in there, and they were full of hate, all of them. And their stories, when they told their story, was they wanted revenge and pain for them, and I thought, oh, no, I'm not doing this. I have 2 kids, and I don't want them full of hate. I don't want them to hate the world. I don't want them to hate people. It's not how I am, and it's not how Tom was.
But that was a conscious decision for you not to go that route, because the natural response to this would be, I hate you, I hate the bastard that did this, and I want him to die too, because that's how it's a human response. So you've had to make a conscious decision not to hate this person, haven't you?
Yes, I don't like him.
No.
But I don't sit around with my day wishing harm on him. Do I want his life to be great? No, not really. No. If I'm honest,
No, absolutely. So how long was the person incarcerated? Or are they still incarcerated?
Yes, he took a plea of 15 to 18 years. He cannot get parole until that 15.
Right.
So he will be there, for quite a while.
And your feelings will be considered in that process, won't they? Your the way that because I think that that there are so many facets to this picture, and I know they're not really of your concern, but obviously he's someone's kid too, the guy that's done this. And his family are obviously feeling the effects of what he's done too. But I think that those things don't come into your equation when you're grieving, do they? Or did they? I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
I knew he had a troubled family life, His mother was a drug addict. She actually ended up overdosing after he was arrested.
Right.
It was about a year later. And he didn't really have much to do with his father. His father was in the court on a few occasions, but he never really parented him. But I wasn't angry with his parents. Do I wish they would have maybe gotten him help, thinking maybe he needed help? Yeah. You know, you could tell there was something not right with that kid.
Yeah.
So do I wish that? Well, yeah. And do I blame them a little bit for that? Yeah. But I didn't wish anything bad on them.
Do you think that your response is a usual response in this situation or not?
I think it's not.
No, I don't.
Not by the meeting I went to anyway.
Because just for me, even I didn't know Tom, and just reading some of the things that you've written, which we'll get onto later, I don't know, it just emotes me immensely just to and I've only known you for a few months to actually get a little glimpse of that pain, but to then hear you say these things, I'm amazed, really, because most people would be totally the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes, I agree.
So tell me, I don't know much about your beliefs. We've talked a little bit about in the past about kind of spiritual matters, but did you before all of this happened? Did you consider yourself to be religious? Did you believe in God? And did this change as a result of your experience?
Well, I was raised Catholic.
Right.
I do believe in God. I do not go to church. I haven't since I was young.
Right.
That was my decision, mostly because I don't believe in the things the church does or says. But I believe there is a God. I don't know what that God is, but I believe there's a higher being. I believe Tom is there.
Right.
And I believed that before.
Right.
And like when we were in the waiting room at the hospital, it probably seemed odd to other people. I'm sure some of the things I said, they were like, whoa, what's wrong with this lady? But when we were in the hospital waiting to view his body, and my sister said, geez, why won't they let us in? He's in there alone. And I said, he's not in there. His body's in there. He's not in there.
Right.
He's probably right here with me. So I always knew that and felt that. And I believe I'll see him again. I don't know what people do who don't believe that.
No, because like I was saying at the beginning, the preamble, that I have spiritual beliefs, and I believe that I will see my loved ones again. I will be reunited with them. But imagine to not have that. That just must be soul destroying, really.
Yeah, I really don't know how I would get by if that's what I thought. If I thought, well, that's it, he's gone, I will never see him again. And I have met a few excellent mediums, and Tom has come through loud and clear. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's comforting to me, too. I usually try to do that about once a year.
Kathie, sorry, just 1 second. There's something going on with my phone. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to transfer so that I don't have to. Hi, are you still there?
Yep.
Right, I just have to swap phones. Hello. Sorry about that. Hello?
Yep.
Hi. Sorry, I'm back with you. The phone. I had to call in on another line because the phone died.
Okay.
But I'm back with you now. so sorry about that. Where were we?
We were talking about the mediums and being spiritual.
Right, absolutely. Because I know we talked before about, because I wanted to do a show with Lisa Williams, and we talked a little bit about you, your kind of feelings. I know that when my dad died, I went with my aunt to a spiritualist church meeting because she was involved there. And they said, put something personal. If you've lost someone recently, put something personal in this cloth bag. And I kind of remembered doing it and thinking, I believe in things spiritual, but I didn't get a message. I didn't get anything come through. But your experience was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've had many that were just spot on. One of them is actually going to be on Ricky Lake. She was on, and she's going to be on with her niece, and they're from this area. And that was one of my first experiences. It was a room packed with people, and it wasn't long after Tom had died, and I was sitting with my sister, and she walked by me, and she turned around, and she said, "Tom." And I mean, honestly,
wow.
I don't see how you can just, pull that out. And she pulled out details of everything. She knew that someone had done it to him, how they did it, what color Jeep he was in. I mean, things that there's just no way.
Right. I think go on, sorry.
So I think, sometimes you're not ready for a reading. I went to John Edwards right after Tom, and I didn't get read. And I think maybe it was too soon for me.
I think that might have been the case with me, really.
Right, and I also went to one who draws pictures while she talks to you.
Wow.
And that one I went to by accident. Because some people like to say, oh, well, you call up and you order a ticket and then they investigate you as if they have time for this. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no. And they can't do that in person, can they? I know sometimes that there are these clever people who can read stuff from your reactions, but they can't. Where would they pluck Tom out of? Where would they pluck that name? That was too...
Yes.
Concise, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the one that, she would do the drawing. I went there by mistake. My brother called me at the very last minute, and she was selling her book. And the room was full of people, 25 people. And I came in at the last minute. They pulled a seat aside for me, and she said, I'm going to do 2 readings. And I thought, 2 readings?
Yeah.
That's crazy. 25 people. She's just selling her book. I wasted my time. And she did the first reading. Hold on one second, Xander.
No problem. So just while Kathie's dealing with an issue that's going on there, I remember this feeling really disappointed. No problem. I was just sharing with the listeners that I felt really disappointed that my dad kind of didn't come through, because I know that my dad would have, if my dad had been there, if I'd been kind of ready to absorb, I'm sure he would have come and said something funny, because that's what my dad was like.
Right, and that is how they come through, the same way, so that it's them, and, they keep that personality. Oh, but anyway, so she did a drawing of an older man, and she did a reading for somebody, and then she got to, next she said, I have a young man. He was in his teens. He played football, and she went on and on. Everything fit me. And she drew the picture, and like Joe in chat is saying, she still has the picture on her phone. It is clearly my son.
Wow.
So, that really validated it for me, too.
And you can't question those. Like I said, if you sit down with someone and they do a little bit of guesswork with you, you can invalidate that, but you can't invalidate something like that, can you?
No. How many people lost a son? That room wasn't full of people who lost a son in their teens by somebody else. It just, no. And when you go to one that's not great and she says, oh, did you lose someone from cancer? Who hasn't? Or something, very vague. You can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, for a long time for me, it was kind of a clash with things like that, because the religious not the religious side of me, but the church teaches that this is kind of wrong, and I always wondered why it did, because if it's of comfort to you and it helps you in your process, it's kind of who can question whether it's right or not,
Right. And I don't try to put it on other people. If they don't believe in it, then they don't.
No.
No,
absolutely.
That's up to them. But I don't like them to say that it's not real for me either. I've had people say it to me.
Right. But how can... I know there are some people that are grieving that go to these things and they want something so badly they can turn it into something. But when it's something so specific, how can it be? How can it not be correct?
Right.
I mean, one of the things that a friend, I spoke to somebody at that place after, because I was after my dad died, I was really suffering pretty badly because I was very close to my dad, and I was in my kind of early 20s, and I was talking to this woman who she proclaimed she was a medium, and that's fine, but I was saying about why did I keep dreaming of my dad, and she said that she believed that was my dad trying to communicate with me. And she said, I told him, I said, you can't be here, you're dead. And she said, don't ever tell him that. Don't ever say that to him. These are special times when loved ones who have died come to you in dreams because they want to spend more time with you. And I thought, now, is that a lot of BS or is that true? And it was really funny. The next time I dreamt of my dad, I hugged him and told him I'd missed him. And I really didn't care whether it was true or not because it was still special. Do you know what I mean? Have you dreamed of Tom? Have you had these experiences too?
Yes, I have. I mean, sometimes I dream of him and I think, oh, that was just a dream, But other times when he's come to me, I know it was real. There was one that he came to me. This was before I knew where he was exactly stabbed. I knew he was stabbed 7 times. I didn't know exactly where. I didn't want to see the photos. And he came to me in a dream, and he said, I'm okay, Mom. And I kept saying, but you were in pain. He said, I wasn't in pain. Look, I'm all healed up. And he showed me exactly where the scars were. And he said, look, I'm fine. And we had a conversation. And when I met with the DA the next time, I said, can I just ask you something? Was there a stab wound under his right arm right here? And I showed, and he said, yes. Now, I never knew that. I was never told that, and I never knew that. So that made me believe that he did come to me in a dream.
Right. And this is the thing, Kathie, as far as I'm concerned, there are always going to be naysayers about your experience, but you know what you felt, you know what you saw, you know what you experienced, and I think that, if anybody wants to argue that, they can go forth and multiply, basically.
Right.
For one of a less polite term. So people talk about the stages of grief, and I'm sure it's different for everyone. And some people kind of bypass the stages. Some people get stuck on them, and some people never even get through them. And I've heard people say, "Oh, the average grieving is like 2 years," and for some people it's quicker, and this, that, and the other. And they say about denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And I don't know about you, but I don't feel that there is like a standard catalog of how people should deal with these things or how normal, what they
and I don't think there is I don't think there is a normal. I think it's different for everybody, and people grieve differently, and I don't judge that, and I don't want them judging me for it, No, I know some people don't like pictures around the house of that person. I love it. I have them everywhere. I don't judge how they grieve. I wear sweatshirts with Tom's picture on them, always.
Right.
And
some people say don't talk about the person,
yes.
but how can you not? I know that when things have first happened, it's very kind of tender, but you can't just forget someone, can you? I think it's so important. That's what keeps their memory alive, if nothing else.
Well, when Sam started school, and I had to explain to the gym teacher that he had post-traumatic stress.
Right.
And I told her why, and she said, oh, he remembers him? And I thought, are you kidding me? It's his brother. I'll never
why
let
would
him
he
forget
not?
him. I mean, what? That was shocking to me.
I think that sometimes people, in their zeal to be politically correct and to be seen to be doing their best for someone, they kind of they F it up, basically, don't they? They fall over their own feet to be trying to do it right.
Yeah.
And it sometimes, you see, for me, just you know, I've had quite a bit of extensive counseling training, and for me, one of the things that I learned was you always take the cues from the person. You know?
Right.
It's not for me to put on you how you should be behaving or how things should progress. It's for you to say, you know, surely. And
it was difficult, too, with, like, well, we were going to talk about my blog later, but the next one I'm going to post on a blog, there's a story of how other people react to me afterwards. As
right.
if they're waiting for me to have a breakdown of some sort in public. And it was very uncomfortable for me for years and years.
Yeah, because it kind of...
They would avoid me. They would, you know...
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it's a really... People don't realize those little things that happen, you know?
Right.
So now I'm very conscious of it. If it's somebody else, to make sure I go over to them and don't try to avoid them because it's uncomfortable for me.
Right.
Imagine how uncomfortable it is for them.
Yeah, because I think there's always been this. I remember when I was a kid and I was out with my mom. I was about 8 or 9, and I said, "Oh, we were in town, and this is when we lived in England." And I said, "Oh, there's Aunt so and so," and my mom said, "Oh, let's go the other way because her husband just died." I'm like, Uncle so and so died. Why can't let me go give her a hug? She's like, no, let's just go. I just find the concept odd. That
right.
people would kind of back off because, you know, this is the thing for me. When I've known people who've had someone die in their family, you know, I want to be there for them as much as possible. And if they say, you know, Xander, I love you, but F off, that's cool too. But at least I want them to know that I'm there. You know?
Right.
I'd just like for 1 second, Kathie, to go to the chat room because I've been a bit neglectful of them. With Kathie, we've got Joe in the chat room and Carly, and several guests who I don't know who they are. Probably one of them is Jake's mom because I know she's a big fan of the show. Joe just said, I'll say this about you, Kathie. Ever since I met you, you've made it easy to talk about Tom to you. I feel if you need to talk, if you will let us. And she's never afraid to bring him up.
Yeah, part of my doing that, too, is I don't want him forgotten.
No.
You know, he's still a part of my family, even though he's not in this physical world.
Right.
You know, so I do talk about him often. You know, I try to tell Sam stories of him so he doesn't forget, you know, because he was only 4. So, yeah, it's never been an issue with me to talk about it or share my story, or I hope it helps other people and, you know, it keeps Tom alive in memory to me.
Right. And I think that, I don't know, I think that sometimes fear kind of gets in the way of that for people. Now, there are lots of myths, I think, attached to grief. You know, things like the pain will go away faster if you ignore it. Not true.
No.
You know, I think that people that ignore it seem to encounter the mental and physical aspects of grief for longer. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about, you know, about you having to put your grief on the back burner. Do you feel that had a physical, what's the word? My brain has died. Was there a physical aspect to that, not experiencing that grief?
Well, I think it was harder. That I think if I had advice, I would tell somebody not to do that. I should have gone to counseling right away and helped myself heal. At the same time, I was trying to heal them. You know, I couldn't fix everything. I couldn't. and I tried to the best that I could, but putting myself on hold, when I finally had to look at my own pain, it was overwhelming. It was built up for 4 years, 4 years of pain and anxiety, so it was overwhelming for me. It still is. It still is till this day. I still have anxiety. Do you find it?
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I still have anxiety. I'm a little better. I went to counseling. I can get myself out of the house more. I had a hard time for years where I did not want to leave the safety of this home.
Right. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm sure you have good days and bad days, like most people. But you always seem so strong. Now, I'm not saying that that you're putting on a brave face or whatever, but when I first kind of heard about you what you'd experienced, obviously from other people in our little group, I was like, my God, how do you move on from that? How do you carry on from that? And I know you have to, but I've just always been quite staggered by. I know you have to carry on, but I'm always staggered by the fact that how you have been able to carry on.
Well, I think, if you knew Tom, you'd get it a little bit. He was a lot like me. We have a weird sense of humor, as you can tell. You can tell by the chat. I have an odd sense of humor. And I
think you're in good company, Kathie, really, don't you?
And I didn't want to lose that. That's a part of Tom. He was like that,
Right.
So, there are days, believe me, where at night when I'm alone, I let it out,
Right.
Or I take a ride in my car sometimes, and I listen to, I know I'm always talking about Pink on Twitter, but she has a couple of songs that touch me. And, I'll get in the car and listen to those songs and just release it. And then I buck up again and say, okay, let's go, But I think that is my personality, too. I'm not one that folds easily. I'm just not. I never have been. And I honestly, when I see Tom, I don't want him to be disappointed in me.
No. I don't know Tom, and I never did, but I don't think that he could be disappointed in you. Really,
well, I hope not. I hope I'm doing what he, would want me to do.
I think that anybody that knows you on whatever level would see that you're a tower of strength. Really, I do. So one thing that happens with me a lot, and I just wondered if it happens. You see, this is the thing. People try and quantify grief as if it's different from losing a son or losing a parent or losing a friend. I know that grief, there are varying intensities of grief, but grief is grief, and I think that it manifests itself with people differently. Now, it's weird sometimes. I forget that my dad is gone, and I'll see something on the TV, and I think, I must record that for Dad, or I must buy that for Dad, and then I think, Sandy, you silly sausage, your dad's not, your dad died. And then it brings it back to me again. Do you kind of have, 9 years it's been since my dad died, but still kind of thing, must call Dad and tell him this, or,
Well, I don't think I do that. I talk to Tom a lot, which, I have conversations with him. Sometimes I ask him for help if I'm having a hard time, or, I think what I did was, at first what I did was I went over what happened to him over and over in my mind to cause myself pain. Not sure why. I don't know why I did that, but I did that for a good year. And then I got over that. And then it turned to something else. Every year I think it's been something different. Holidays are hard, which I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I have a granddaughter now. And in my mind, I still do this, I say, well, when she's born, that's going to heal me because it's a new baby coming, and obviously that's love, but it doesn't take from Tom being gone. It is great, and I adore her, you know. And I tell her about Tom, and I say, "Where's Tom?" And she says, "Up in heaven." Like, she knows, you know. I make sure she knows too. And I say, "Well, who sent you here to me?" And she says, "Tom did." So
that's really sweet.
So, you know, that it's love and it helps, but it never takes away from that. Every time I think something will, it doesn't really. It never will, I guess.
I don't, you know, like I said at the foot of the show, and they say, "Oh, time is a great healer." I don't think that it is all. I just think that we find different ways of coping with what we've gone through. You know, like, this is the thing in the animal kingdom. You know, we're a highly evolved species, and in the animal kingdom, when an animal dies, when an animal's offspring dies, it does mourn. You know, it's provable. It's been proven that it mourns. They've had it on video. You know, they've caught it on camera that the animal mourns, and then they do it for a little while, and then they move on. But we are such a highly evolved species that for us, it doesn't kind of just go away, does it? We just cope with it better.
Yeah, we find different ways to cope. You know. And things that hurt in the beginning, we learn to heal them as we go, you know. I don't picture him now because they had to do an autopsy, and I had to go and say, yes, that's him. I don't go over that in my mind every day anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I stopped doing that. I know he's fine where he is, and that's how I live now.
I think there's an element to grief of kind of working things through in your mind, to kind of set them right, as it were. Do you know what I mean? To place them right.
Yeah.
And I think that's often why we keep going over scenarios in our mind. I think we have to, as human beings, compartmentalize emotions and things we've been through, etc. Because when we do, we can try and make sense of it better. Not that there's any sense in any of the things that you've experienced. I mean, they're all just kind of like, whoa, you know, just kind of just crazy concepts. But I think that we just have to compartmentalize these things in order to live, just to carry on, just to get out of that bed every morning and put one foot on the floor. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, and I think, like, I try to, through the years, I find things that, you know, fill that little bit of a void. You know, Twitter is one for me. It's a release for me.
Right.
You know, it sounds so silly, but I honestly have made, you know, including you, good friends on Twitter.
Absolutely, me too.
You know,
but, you know, I see what you're saying, because it's funny. I mean, I don't always get it right, but it's like my comedy and the stuff I say. You know, sometimes people are a little bit shocked by it, but that's my release too. You know,
right?
I get those thoughts that are in my head out there, and some people find them funny, and other people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't have said that, Xander," and that's fine. But it's a catharsis, isn't it? Really.
I think Brody's on hold, and he's getting mad.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at the... No, he's not. Call back, Brody. Sorry, I didn't... I wasn't looking at the callers. If you want to call us, it's 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Sorry, Brody. I was amiss, and I wasn't looking at the chat room. Just while we're waiting for Brody to call back in, I know you've been on lots of other shows and been involved in other things, and I guess maybe I'm wrong, but the aim of all these things is to try and help other people. Have you found that it's helped you as well talking about it? Yeah,
I feel like, you know, talking about it and getting it out there puts a good spin on it, if you will, you know, as much as you can. If I help someone, then Tom's helping someone. You know,
right.
It's for something. You know, it happened for something. So I hope, you know, I do help some people, and
right.
And I think it helps me. I get to release this. I get to release my feelings, my thoughts, and that helps me. So it's definitely a win-win for me.
Right. So you've mentioned before about, the possibility about making a documentary about your experience. Is that still something you'd like to do?
It is something. Also, right now I'm going to try to work on the book.
Right, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your writing. It doesn't look like Brody's calling back. Sorry, Brody, I wasn't ignoring you. I wasn't keeping my eye on the phone situation. Before we talk about your book, would you mind if I read an extract of your blog?
Go ahead.
Which would you rather I read, from the cemetery or from Sam?
It doesn't matter. Either one's fine.
Okay. So this is an excerpt from Kathie's blog, and it's called, the first one is called The Cemetery. As I enter through the black iron gate of St. John's Cemetery, I am hit with the aroma of freshly cut grass that goes on for miles. I smell the newly churned soil and feel pain and despair that go along with it. I breathe in newly planted flowers that smell of lilac and citrus. The air is cold and rough and gives me goosebumps every time it hits my warm skin. As I walk along the path to my destination, I see an older gentleman watering red roses. He looks up at me, we make eye contact. His eyes are a vibrant blue, filled with sadness and tears. I then wonder what he sees in my eyes. I cannot help but wonder if he has regret, or if he was one of the lucky ones that didn't take for granted the time he had with his loved one. I glanced at the heart-shaped stone, and in front of him I read the words, beloved wife and mother. The angel sits on his stone and watches over the lovely flowers being watered. The man nods his head towards me, and we share a moment of understanding as I walk along. Now, that's just a little extract from your blog, Kathie. I have to say, I read the whole thing, and I read both of them, and I couldn't read them. I am an emotional old homo, but I cried through both. They just spoke to me. I felt, regardless of how good the writing was, the content was just heart-wrenching, really.
Right. I don't want my whole book to be that, though.
No.
Because it is very deep. I mean, it's real, it's raw, and it's the truth, I'm not adding anything or taking anything away. That's exactly the moment as it went down,
Right. And again, do you think that this is kind of all part of the healing process as well?
Yeah, I don't think I could have done this years ago, gone back, because I have to bring myself back there in order to write that. I have to put myself in that moment again. So, yeah, it's difficult, and yet it releases something.
Right. I will never know. Go on, sorry.
I've had people call me or send me a private message on Twitter or saying, they felt it did help them. So that is my goal.
It's kind of good that happens. I know that Rosie O'Donnell follows you now on Twitter. Did she read your blog? Has she responded to you about it?
I don't know if she read it. I did send her the link, and she did follow me. I don't know. She didn't comment, so I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, I think it's kind of I don't know. I just from reading it myself, I just felt that I was just getting a little feeling a little piece of the pain that you were experiencing or had experienced.
Right.
So tell us a bit. I know you're hoping to get a book published about your experiences. Will a part of that, because I know you've talked about this before, about meeting either the person who was responsible for Tom's death or his family, is that still a part of the equation or not?
It is. I would like, I mean, he would have to agree too. I think at some point I would like to meet him face to face. He apologized when it first happened through somebody because he could not reach out to me. It was, he could not do that. But once we got to the point where it was going to be a trial, I feel like he wasn't the same person after being in jail for years. He was shut down emotionally. I got to read a letter in the court, which I did, which I will add, in that book. And I only saw emotion once. Just once. He was totally shut down from emotion, I feel. I have heard from somebody that is close to him that, he did want to kill himself. He loved Tom. There's no doubt that he loved Tom. I do believe that. So I would like to see what he would say to me. I have no idea what it could be. So this is, I don't know if it'll be good or bad. I have no clue.
I mean, God forbid, you could go out in your car tomorrow and someone could walk out in front of you and, and they've just not looked and they could be stone cold dead. And you would never forgive yourself for that. And that's an accidental thing. But I just wonder how you would live with yourself after you'd actually done that. Because if you're carrying a knife, you're carrying a knife for a purpose. You're not carrying it to cut up your apple in your lunch break, are you?
No. So, but I don't know what well, now he's in prison. I don't know what prison has done to him. Did he convince himself it wasn't really his fault? He was defending himself. Tom was so big. I don't know. I have no idea what he will say to me. It's a big risk on my part because I don't know if I'll relive that for years to come, but I feel like it's something I want and need to do at some point.
Right. And obviously 7 years have gone by since this happened, and who's to say what changes haven't occurred in his life? Because I guess it must be, I guess it must be a very, I'm not kind of trying to sympathize with this guy, but he's obviously got his own set of issues that he's dealing with,
Well, yeah, and I did hear, because they have to inform me of everything, that he did pull a knife in jail on somebody, too, and try to stab him.
Wow.
So, I wasn't too comforted by that.
No. Because obviously one of the things that the parole board is going to look at is, is evidence of rehabilitation, and I don't know how long ago that was, but it's kind of it's not like he's kind of moving on, is it? If he's still doing the same things.
No, but I'm sure prison hardens you to some degree.
I'm sure. I'm sure you have to even protect yourself, even just going for a shower. I mean. And
like I said, he's a very small guy. I don't know. I'm sure it's not great for him.
Joe just said in the chat room, which is a very good question, do you think someday Sam will want to talk to this guy, like to ask him why?
I don't think so, and I hope not. I would rather him not. I would rather him not talk to him.
No, I see that. Sorry to interrupt you, Kathie. Brody's here. I'm just going to bring him on.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I don't have, a lot to say, but I just wanted to say, Kathie, you're one of the sweetest people I know, and you're very brave for coming on the radio to discuss all this. And Xandy, it's been a very great show.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I wasn't ignoring you. I just wasn't looking at the studio part.
Oh, that's no problem. I should have sent one of you guys a message, but I was just sitting here waiting because I didn't know if you've seen it or not.
No, I didn't, and I'm sorry about that because I would have brought you on. right away.
Well, that's no
I mean,
problem.
I'm sure you would agree, Brody. It's kind of I'm sure you've read Kathie's blog too. It's very you've known Kathie for longer than I have, but
yeah.
it kind of it makes you kind of love her even more, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, especially like I've heard her. I believe you were on Unscripted Radio when Michael Fishman and all of them.
Yep.
I heard Kathie when she was on there, and I fell in love with her. But I've loved Kathie since I first met her. We were the first Cult of Jake people.
Yeah, we were.
Wow, that's nice. That's a nice accolade. You see, we have that on tape for prosperity now, Kathie, that Brody loves you.
Well,
I'll remind him of that next time he blocks me.
Yeah.
I'm only assholes to asshole people on Twitter. You know that, Xander. Like those people last night.
Yeah, that was kind of Brody was being attacked on Twitter for several things, including being gay and being a flamer. So I kind of jumped to his defense, and the usual response on Twitter is to twist it around, and apparently I'm anti-gay now, and I'm anti everything, anti-sex worker. So go figure.
Well, thanks for taking my call, Xander.
Hey, thanks for calling, Brody. Sorry we didn't see you the first time. Thanks so much for calling.
Oh,
I'll
no
catch
problem.
up with you
See
very
us on
soon.
Twitter.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Well, that was the lovely Brody Stewart, a.k.a. Blocker. And you heard it here first. He loves Kathie, but we all love you, Kathie.
Thank you.
So let's bring this kind of to a kind of a bit of a close, because time is catching up with us. Now, we've kind of, I think we've established lots of things in this show about not trying to normalize your grief, and not trying to kind of fit into any kind of grief model, as it were. Tell me, what kind of advice would you give to people who find themselves in a similar situation to you?
Well, I think I would say that there's no normal way to grieve. You do it at your own pace, your own way, and you do heal enough that you can survive.
Right.
It will come. It will come. But not to listen to other people who say, oh, you should feel this way and you should feel that way and you should be over it, Or somebody who says to me, oh, I didn't know you were still in pain. Well, that's ridiculous.
Is it just me, Kathie, or do you actually, I'm not a violent person, but do you actually want to slap some frickin' sense into these people sometimes?
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Me too.
So I
and the first thing everyone says is, go on, sorry.
I think that would just be my only advice, is to do it on your own way, and, you will survive. You will survive. You can do it. You can do it.
Right. Absolutely. That's solid advice. Let me just give out your. I want people to go and look at Kathie's blog. I'm going to give you the address if Kathie is cool with that.
Sure.
It's KathieReynolds.simplesite.com. I'm going to spell that out for you. It's KathieReynolds.simplesite, SIMPLESIT.com. I will tweet this link. You can follow Kathie on Twitter at Kathie Reynolds. That's capital K and capital R. Really check out the blog. You'll be glad you did. And when it comes to actually be a book, you can actually tell people that you saw it before it was a book. Well, Kathie, I don't know. This has been kind of a difficult show for me, but it was one that I really wanted to do with the things that I'd experienced last week. All I did for 2 days last week when I found out about my friend was cry. But the funny thing is, tears are very healing, and I actually felt very. I felt a bit of a burden had been lifted. I'm not saying I'm not still sad about it,
right,
because I am, but I do feel that that because I let it out, it kind of it allowed the grieving process to come all that much quicker.
Right. I think so too. You got to release it.
Absolutely. So is there anything else you'd like to share with the 20 million people that are listening to my show?
No, but thanks for having me, Xander. And
well,
I'll see you on Twitter.
Thanks for coming on. Don't forget to follow Kathie on Twitter. Thank you so much for your time today, Kathie.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Lots of love. Bye. Well, that was today's episode of Xandermonium with me, Xander Gibb, and my special guest, Kathie Reynolds. I really, I've only known Kathie for a few months, but my level of interaction with her, she's shown me her heart. I see that she has a very big heart, and I see that she has a heart to help other people. I'd encourage you to read her blog, and I would encourage you to kind of just be a little bit more observant of other people. Look out for those that you love. Look out for your friends. And I'd like to thank everyone in the chat room today. Thanks to Brody for calling in. Thanks to Carly. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to Kathie for being my guest. Thanks to Rich, and thanks to all the guests, guest number. I'm not going to go through them all. We will be back with you on Xandermonium next Sunday, same time, same place. Thank you for all of your continued support, and I love you all. Thank you. Bye.
Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when